Well, as the ongoing crisis in Ukraine continues, families are struggling to bring food to the table during the holy month of Ramadan in the Middle East and North Africa in particular. Juliette Touma is from UNICEF and focuses on those two areas. Welcome to Ticker News. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for your time. So before we talk about what's causing these food shortages at the moment, can you paint the picture of which countries are being affected and the groups of people that are being affected?
The most affected countries are, in fact, the countries that have been going through conflict. So certainly the most severe situation is in places like Yemen, like Syria, like Sudan, where poverty is very, very high, and we are seeing price hikes. Families are indeed struggling to buy the basics, including food and cooking oil, among other things.
So what is causing these food shortages? Is it because of what you mentioned there? They're in these areas which are in such difficult times?
I think there are a number of reasons why we're witnessing that. I think definitely during the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen in this region interruptions to the supply chain, and that impacted the availability, but also the prices of basic food items. In addition to that, we have high poverty levels and high unemployment due to conflicts, but also due to the pandemic. And now with the crisis in the Ukraine, this has certainly impacted the situation even further. So as Muslims in this part of the world mark the holy month of Ramadan and get together for breaking the fast meals, we do know from families that they are struggling to bring food to the table.
How bad is it for these families? What is a day looking like for them, and what can happen next, ideally, to improve their situation?
I think the fear that UNICEF has is that we will see higher levels of malnutrition among children. Already in places like Yemen and like Sudan, we have severe acute malnutrition cases where children are struggling and fighting for their lives. In fact, in a place like Yemen, we do know that a child dies every 10 minutes due to preventable causes, including malnutrition. So the risk and the fear is that malnutrition among children in these two countries is indeed going to increase. And what we're calling for at UNICEF is for concerted efforts so that we can all work together to provide children with malnutrition, with the assistance they need, because it's a sort of an illness. At some point, it becomes a sort of an illness. And so we need to provide children with the micronutrients that they need. We need to do assessments early on so that we identify and detect malnutrition among children early on. And we need more assistance to come to these countries, including the delivery of these supplements, but also of basic foods and basic medicine, so that we avert more children from going hungry and more children from falling ill with malnutrition.
Juliette, it's quite a broad question, but are we getting better when it comes to solving these issues? In 2022, to think about young children dying is so tragic in so many ways. Outside of what UNICEF does, clearly some great work. Are we getting better in this space, do you think, or not?
I think one of the issues here in the Middle East and North Africa is the conflicts and the armed conflicts that have been going on for many, many years. I mean, we're talking Syria, 11 years of one of the most brutal conflicts that the world has seen. I mean, until the Ukraine, it is safe to say that what was happening in Syria was really a carnage. And children were the first and most to suffer. And same story repeats itself in places like Yemen, but also to certain degrees in places like Sudan, among other countries in the region. And I think why we are where we are right now is that these wars have gone on for way, way too long. And it is time that more efforts are in place so that there is a negotiation, so that there is a diplomatic, peaceful solution that is found to all these conflicts. Children are the first and the most to suffer, and they have been at the front line, and it is time to think about these children and to bring peace to this part of the world. It has suffered for way, way, way too long.
Yeah, it's very well said. Juliette, just finally, how have you seen the crisis in Ukraine? We've been covering the war for the last 7 or 8 weeks, and clearly a lot of the global attention has focused on that area. Do you think that has taken away some attention from these other areas in some ways?
The crisis in the Ukraine is certainly not something that this universe needed, because it came to add to multiple crises, whether it is in the Middle East or North Africa, whether it's the crisis in Afghanistan, in Ethiopia, I mean, you name it. And so we have more conflicts. You're absolutely right. And when you have more conflicts, that means that the attention is diverted, that the funds and the money and the resources that we all need to respond to the different crises, including in places like Syria and Yemen, is less. And this is a fear, of course, that we have at UNICEF. So, I mean, the best solution for all of us around the world is for these crises to come to an end, for these wars to come to an end as soon as possible. We don't need more wars in this region. We don't need more conflicts around the world. And certainly we do hope that all these wars will come to an end as soon as possible, also for the sake of children, wherever they are in this world.
Juliette Touma, thank you so much for your work and your insight and time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.